This is part 2 of the discussion of governance documents for new urban communities. You might remember that in part 1 of this discussion, I said that my number 1 rule is always keep the residential governance separate from the commercial governance. And in this section, I'm going to talk a little bit more about why that is, and it has a lot to do with statutes. Now, the statutes are the state laws that control homeowners associations. And almost every state has some kind of statute. Some of them are quite elaborate, some of them are quite simple, and in a few cases there really isn't one, and you just fall back on the generalized statute for nonprofit corporations. But in most cases, there will be some rules set out in the statute that will apply to a residential association. Those rules may limit how long a developer may retain control of the association. It may provide a lot of steps to turn over. It might have rules concerning how the notice provisions and how the meetings are operated, but they will generally have a lot of restrictions on how the HOA will be run. And those are just a fact of life, and you have to deal with it when it comes to the residential association. But you don't have to deal with that when it comes to the commercial operation, and that's where you can get creative. So what you don't want to do is accidentally drag your commercial association or your commercial entity into the Residential Homeowners Association Act by including residential property in your commercial property owners association. Even if you've got a true mixture of uses where you've got live-work units or something, you want to be really, really careful, depending on how the way your statute is written, not to have those properties accidentally pull your commercial operation entity into a residential homeowners association statute. Now, we've talked about a commercial entity, or it may or may not be a commercial property owners association. That's one of the areas where you have some creativity. You can do a commercial property owners association, but you may also retain ownership of the commercial common areas in the developer or a management entity controlled by the developer, and then with a recorded document, give your commercial property owners easements to use those properties and obligate them to contribute their share. And that might be a very effective way to operate it with a great deal of efficiency without having to go through the motions of having a commercial property owners association. One of the considerations that will help you decide what kind of entity you want to have here is really thinking about how this commercial town center is going to work. Is it like Main Street, where each owner of commercial property basically does their own thing? Or is it going to be more like a mall or a lifestyle center? It doesn't have to look like a mall or a lifestyle center. It could look very much like Main Street, but it may be operated much more like a mall in the sense that it will have standardized rules for perhaps hours of operation. It may try to regulate the merchant mix and the types of things that are sold or the services that are provided there, standards of cleanliness and things like that, that may be centrally managed. And it may be that you want to do that through a management entity rather than a commercial property owners association. And if you do go with a commercial property owners association, since you will not be restricted by the Homeowners Association Act, you may wish to retain control of that commercial property owners association for a very, very long time.